Aye.
Please be seated. State, call your next witness. Members of the jury, this witness has been sworn.
Sir, if you would, please state your name for the jury. My name is Jorge Nevares.
And how are you employed?
I am the Inmate Programs Coordinator.
What does that mean? What do you do in that role?
I facilitate programming and church services for the inmate population, as well as oversee the reception staff who monitors the video visitation capabilities in the jail.
Sir, can you pull that microphone closer, please?
Sure. Sorry
Thank
about
you.
that. I facilitate inmate programs for the inmate population.
And do you also serve as custodian for the jail visitation software and the that system?
That is correct.
Okay. If you would, does the county jail, just like it has a jail call system, it also has a visitation system whereby visitors can go into the jail, look into a video screen, and have a conversation with an inmate within the jail. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And you are the custodian of the system that let me back up. When those visitations occur, are they recorded?
That is correct.
Okay. I don't think I remember to talk about this with Colin Kimball, but, well, I'll do that later. They're recorded. Is there signage to let people know that these are being recorded as they enter the facility and when they go into the visitation area?
Absolutely.
Okay. And within that system, do you have the ability to go in and alter or change any of those videos?
No, I do not.
And in fact, no one has the ability to go in and mess with videos. That system records and stores. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. With regards to that system, are the records kept by inmate ID number?
No. In this particular system, they are not.
Okay. How are they kept?
All the recordings are kept by date. When we look for a particular recording, we look at them by the date and the housing assignment.
And in this case, did we ask you to pull the visitations for an inmate named Bryan Cahill, inmate number 129487, and you had to actually go and find those videos?
That is correct.
Okay. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as states number 364 and ask if you recognize a marking that you put on states 364 to confirm whether or not those are true and accurate videos from the visitation software.
Yes, I recognize it.
Okay. You are not here to testify that you would recognize Bryan Cahill, correct?
No.
And you are not here to testify that you would recognize his mom, Christine Cahill, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. But as far as states 364, you can testify as a custodian that these are accurate videos from that system, which, as you said, myself, my staff, no one can go on there and mess with the videos.
That's correct.
Okay. We'll offer states 364 for record purposes at this time.
We have no objection to the offer for the purpose stated.
All right, states 364 is admitted for record purposes.
I will pass the witness.
So, Mr. Navarez, you're responsible for the sheriff for all inmate programs through the jail, right?
That is correct.
So that would include educational programs, recreational programs, 12-step programs, and visitation as well. right?
That is correct.
So when someone has a person in the jail that they want to visit, first of all, if they're not an attorney, they can't just show up at the jail and say, I want to visit Joe Schmo, can they?
No, they may not.
The person who is in the jail has to give a list of people that they want to receive visits from, right? The inmate.
That is correct.
When he's booked into the jail or she's booked into the jail, they have to give a list of people that they're willing to receive visits from, right?
That is correct.
And it has to be a specific list. They can't just say, I'll see anybody who comes to visit me. They have to give names of people that they'll see. Is that correct?
Yes.
And they also can't have an unlimited number of names on that list, can they?
They may not.
How many can they have on there?
Up to 5.
All right. So they could have 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, but they couldn't have 6, right?
That is correct. They would have to replace someone from the current list.
And if they want to change that, they have to take someone off and put someone new on, right?
Yes.
And they can't do that just whenever they want to, can they?
No, they may not.
How does that work?
They may submit a request through Request Manager.
All right. And how often can they make a request to change the people who are on their roster of visitors?
They may make a request at any time.
At any time. So they could make a request every day to say, take off number 1, put on number 6.
That is correct.
All right. Are those frequent requests like that routinely granted or no?
Yes, they are.
All right. Okay. Now, when a person is on the list and comes to visit, they can't just come and visit whenever they want to, can they?
No, they may not.
The only person they can visit whenever they want to is a lawyer, right?
Yes, and a member of the clergy as well.
All right. So, but one of the people that's on the named list of up to 5, they can come up to 3 times a week, right?
Yes.
And the times that they can come are also limited to a specific window, right?
Yes.
And if you get there before the window opens, they won't let you in to visit.
They will not.
And if you come after the window closes, they won't let you in to visit, even if it's on the correct date.
That is correct.
Now, when a person comes to visit, it's possible to visit in a room within the jail where the visitor is on one side of a glass partition and the inmate is on the other side of a glass partition, right?
It is possible.
And they speak to each other through a telephone link.
Yes.
And they can see each other through the glass that divides them.
Yes.
Now, that's not the kind of visitation you're talking about that the prosecutor has asked you about and shown you that disc of, right?
No, that is not.
The video visitation occurs in a room off of the jail lobby where there are a number of television screens. The visitor comes and sits in front of the television screen, and the person being visited is at a television screen inside the jail, right?
Yes.
So the people are not in proximity to each other at all, except insofar as they're all in the same big jail building.
Yes.
But they're not in the same room. They can't see each other except on the television link.
That's correct.
So the first question is, how do you decide, or how is it decided who sees the person through the glass with the telephone link and who sees the person with the video link?
Well, there are 2 answers to that. People in the special housing units usually see people through the lobby monitors as well as cluster 4. That's just the way it was designed.
All right. So the special housing units are housing units within the jail for people who have special needs, right?
Yes.
And so some of the people are in the special housing units because they're violent troublemakers, right?
That is correct.
They violate the sheriff's rules and do stuff they're not supposed to do, so he takes them out of general population and puts them in the special housing unit, right?
Yes.
And some other people are in the special housing unit because they have special needs. Maybe they have medical needs. Maybe they've been threatened by other jail inmates, maybe a whole lot of things, right?
That is correct.
So a person in the special housing unit might be a bad actor, or it might be a person with special needs, right?
That is correct.
All right, and we just have to ask someone else which category a person falls in.
Yes.
All right, now, on that disc that the prosecutor just showed you, how many separate recordings of video visits concerning Mr. Cahill are there on that disc?
There are multiple recordings.
Are you able to say if it's 200 or 300? Can you give me any idea how many there are?
No set number. I do not recall.
All right. How many total recordings of all video visits concerning Mr. Cahill are on your recording that you just identified?
On this particular one, I do not recall.
All right. Are they all on there or just some?
I am not sure.
All right. How did you know which ones to put on the recording?
That was dictated by the subpoena.
All right. So the prosecutor's office sent you a subpoena that specified the recordings that you were to place on the disc. Is that correct?
Yes.
And am I correct to say that the subpoena did not specify all recordings? It specified some specific ones, or you don't know?
Yes, it specified some specific ones.
So you put the ones on there that they asked you to put on there, and that the court's order required you to put on there?
Yes.
All right. And you haven't reviewed them, don't know what they contain, because that's not what you were supposed to do?
That is correct.
All right. Now, let me ask you this. We're just coming out of, and to the extent we're still going through, the great virus epidemic. What effect did that have on visitation at the Collin County Jail?
It impacted greatly.
Exactly how?
Members of the public could no longer enter the facility.
All right. Not for any purpose.
That is correct.
Well, they could come in and speak to the receptionist, right?
Yes.
They could come in and deposit money to the jail accounts of the people that they were helping in the jail, right?
Yes.
But they could not speak to them, not through the glass on the telephones and not on the video link either.
Yes.
When did that interdict go into effect that stopped the visitation?
It was an order from the Texas Commission of Jail Standards. It happened in March.
Of what year?
I believe it was 2020.
All right. And when did visitation resume in the jail?
I am not certain. I would like to say 4 months ago.
All right. And so it is now June, so 4 months ago would have been February 2021. Am I about right about that?
Around there, yes.
All right. So for 11 months, between March 2020 and February 2021, there was no visitation in the jail, right?
That is correct.
Not through the glass and not over the video.
Correct.
So the only way for a person to have contact with their loved one in the jail was to send them a paper letter in the United States mail, right?
Yes.
Because that was never interrupted.
No.
All right. Remember to speak. Don't just shake your head, because she has to write down what you say. And
Understood.
if you don't say anything, she's got nothing to write. Okay?
Yes. Only letters and phone calls.
All right. So when the visitation resumed in February of this year, did it resume all at once, or was there a period of time when you could do the video but couldn't visit face-to-face?
I believe it resumed all at once.
All right, so all right, very good. Thank you, Mr. Navarez. No further questions.
Is this witness released?
By the state.
He's released.
Sir, thank you. You are released and free to go or stay, whatever you'd like to do. Ranger, come on up to the bench. Please raise your right hand for me, sir. Do you swear or affirm that your testimony will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do, Your Honor.
Thank you. Please have a seat.
If you would, sir, please state your name, please. Reuben Mankin.
And how are you employed?
I'm a Texas Ranger with the Texas Department of Public Safety.
I'm going to do this to start off. How many hours of sleep have you gotten today?
3.
Okay. Without going into the details, we don't need to know about another investigation, but what were you doing last night, knowing you were going to come in and testify today?
I was working a homicide investigation.
And so you worked that all through the morning, you got home for 3 hours of sleep, and now you're here to testify.
Yes, sir.
That's the life of a Texas Ranger.
Yes, sir, at times.
Okay. Ranger, let's start out here. How did you begin your law enforcement career?
Well, prior to getting into law enforcement, I had to gain some experience, some life experience, which I gained through the military. I served 4 years in the United States Army, attained the rank of sergeant. Keep in mind, this is probably the worst part I don't like about testifying, is talking about my background, but anyhow. Part of that was training. Went through basic training. I was an infantryman, and the training that I received while in Fort Benning was I went to Ranger School, Sniper School, Airborne Air Assault. So I got to do some fun things and gain some pretty good tactical experience.
And then where did you start your law enforcement career?
I started out in Laredo, but before getting to Laredo, I had to complete the 26-week DPS training academy in Austin.
And so when you say I started in Laredo, in what position did you start?
A highway patrol trooper.
How many years did you spend as a highway patrol trooper?
Just shy of 6 years.
So when the jury's heard from Trooper Webb, the jury's heard from Ranger Simmons, you wore the uniform that they've seen, the trooper hat, you worked highways as a trooper.
Yes, I did.
6 years. What other roles were you assigned while with DPS?
So in my time as a trooper, I also served on the DPS SWAT team. At that time, it was in a part-time capacity, so you had to live within a 5 continuous county radius of Travis County. So if we had a call out, then we'd have to drive to that location. I served in the capacity as a breacher, an entry guy, and a sniper as well on the DPS SWAT team.
What about other roles as an investigator?
So after I left the highway patrol, I tested and boarded and got into narcotics. I didn't get into narcotics, but I served as a narcotics sergeant where I worked long-term conspiracy investigations dealing with your higher-level people involved with drug trafficking organizations. We didn't pursue what you would call, I guess, the low-hanging fruit. You were more after the hierarchy to dismantle them from the top. Now, you'd have to work your way up sometimes, but for the most part, those investigations were wire-driven, which is you intercept a phone call, or source-driven, where you have a confidential informant that's providing information, or surveillance-driven. So those are 3 of our means of investigating those types of investigations.
What year did you try out and become a Texas Ranger?
So in order to become a Texas Ranger, I had to have a pretty good reputation in highway patrol.
and then get into a service that allowed me to investigate and then prove myself as an investigator. So that was part of gaining a good reputation amongst my peers and also my supervisors. Once that happened, then I had to take a test, and then I went before an oral board. And at that time, I was selected to be a ranger in Company D in McAllen, Texas, southern tip of Texas.
Can you give us kind of a little bit of an understanding of what it means to be a Texas Ranger, you know, the amount of Texas Rangers we have in the state, and kind of what your role is among law enforcement?
Yes, sir. So there's approximately 160 of us assigned to different parts of the state. Some Rangers have one county. Some Rangers share a county. Some Rangers have multiple counties, depending on population and the amount of violent crime that they have in the area. But the way we have it set up is we want our local agencies, our smaller agencies, to have the Rangers as a resource because we deal with your more violent, high-profile crime. We're talking about it all the time amongst our peers, working groups, and so that's the way the division is set up, is to where your local departments have a resource in the Texas Rangers that can provide them assistance.
And I know you would never say this on your own, but quite honestly, there's a difference sometimes when things are needing to be done, when Texas Rangers get involved, than when just local law enforcement is getting involved.
Yes, sir, it can. I mean, obviously, it brings an added layer of credibility. I'm not taking anything away from local departments at all, but whenever you have the arm of the state also coming in to provide support in an investigation, it just takes it to the next level. Like I said earlier, we deal with this stuff daily, weekly, whatever you want to call it. So it's at the forefront of our mind, whether it's officer-involved shooting, homicide, robbery, kidnappings. I mean, that's the stuff, that's our wheelhouse. Ranger
Simmons talked to us about how even within the Texas Rangers, where y'all are working independently, you never know what may come, be put on your plate on any given day. You still also have specialties where you go to specialized training, you learn about specialized areas of law enforcement. What are the areas that you specifically have been educated on and received extra training on and within your time as a Ranger? Yeah, so Laura, she talked to you all about crime scene, that sort of thing. That's where she gravitated towards. For me, I gravitated more towards the tactical side because kind of it's an old hat for me. Going back to my military days, to SWAT, to where I am today, it's something that, it's not that it's thoughtless, it just, because you put so much thought into being a Ranger, whenever you're more in the tactical realm, that stuff comes a little bit more natural, it's more physical, and I wanted that part of my job to still be prevalent in it, so. And does that also, you say you gravitate to that, does that also put you to where you're utilized a lot in our violent cases, our homicides, and also in our officer-involved shootings? That's correct. And you have, throughout your career, gone to trainings. You educate the public with regards to some of the things we see in the media on officer-involved shootings. Just that's in your wheelhouse. Is that fair? That's fair. Okay. If you would, what is your current area of operation serving as a Ranger? Collin County. And obviously, from time to time, I'll get tasked with going to another company. We have 6 companies throughout the state where we provide support. If it's, say, a shooting at Fort Hood, we send troops there. We send Rangers there. Say the church shooting that happened down in Sutherland Springs, we sent Rangers there. There's just a number of different high-profile investigations where we put our best foot forward, and we want to make sure that you guys receive all the facts, as opposed to just leaving a department
just work it on their own. We've over time we've developed that is the best way to do it, is to send the most knowledge and the most amount of rangers out to a scene and knock it out. Do it.
May I approach this?
Yes.
And Ranger, you kind of hit the nail on the head, but quite frankly, I mean, you and I have worked homicide cases where it may be a lead agency here within Collin County, but you're able to come in and assist them with how they view their scenes, how they look at maybe possibly analyzing their evidence, and even further on in warrants and every aspect of that investigation. You're there as a resource for them.
Yes. Correct? Yes, that's correct. It's extremely important for us to be involved from the get-go. It's just not the same looking at a photograph as it is being out there at the scene and kind of getting a better understanding of the flow of things and how they transpired.
Will you tell us how and why were the Rangers involved in this case, the shooting of Trooper Webb and the standoff that ensued?
Well, Trooper Webb, anytime we have a department employee that's involved in an officer-involved shooting, we have a lead role in those shootings. And with regards to this case, and we're going to go through a whole, I mean, you know where we're going. We're going to go through a whole bunch of stuff about this case, but as far as kind of giving you a title and understanding your role on this case, what was your role on this case? I was the lead role, the lead ranger on it. That means that I'm in charge of gathering all the reports, gathering, the documentary evidence and submitting it to the district attorney's office for review and for grand jury and for where we're at today. All right. You've worked a whole bunch of cases, a whole bunch of different types of cases. Would you describe this case as a whodunit? Absolutely not. Let's talk about that a little bit. Why not? Well, because smoking guns and whodunits, you probably heard the terms. If not, smoking guns is when you have an eyewitness, multiple eyewitnesses, a video camera, capturing, the shooting, where you basically get that information and you have evidence that you can write out an arrest warrant for that person or not, depending on the circumstances. And but that's typically your smoking gun. Whereas a whodunit, it's basically you're having to gather circumstantial evidence and you're building this case. You're gathering facts, and the facts are trending towards an individual. And it's at that point whenever you develop enough evidence and you build up that circumstantial case, or maybe you send some stuff to the lab and then you determine, okay, it's this person, because on the whodunits, you don't have an eyewitness. You have a dead body on the ground and you're having to work from there out. Because in those cases, people, more times than not, they flee from the scene. So we have to develop probable cause and determine who that person is that committed that crime. And in this case, was this ever I wonder who did this crime? Absolutely not. Looking at State's Exhibit number 10, did we have pictures of the individual committing the offense from the start to the finish? Yes. I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 394. Did we actually have our offender's driver's license in this case? Yes. In fact, in State's Exhibit number 10, we see when he actually hands it to our trooper. Correct? Yes. In this case, did we have a defendant who actually took us to his own home, again, to be able to, so we know exactly who it was, where he was living? Yes, and also his registration came back to that same location. In this case, the weapons that were used in the case, we had ATF traces taking them right back to his purchase or his father purchasing one of them. That is correct. Arrested at the scene. Correct. This defendant arrested at the scene. Yes. And in fact, this defendant also had wounds matching what happened outside of his apartment. That's correct. And DNA was even done on this case. Yes. All right. As part of, as we go through it, Case Exhibit 10 showing him there, given the driver's license, pretty clear picture
of the defendant, because nowadays we have the body cam, we have the in-car video, correct?
Correct.
And then even within that in-car video, we can take pictures and show him actually committing the crime in State's Exhibit 12 and 13, correct?
Correct.
14. And then showing him going up to his apartment in 15.
Yes.
Were you able to watch the videos of the initial traffic stop and what happened after that in this case?
I was.
All right. As your role as a Texas Ranger, have you had to investigate many officer-involved shootings?
Yes.
All right. Have you been trained in the investigation of officer-involved shootings?
Yes, I have.
And have you been trained in understanding some of the dynamics that an officer goes through during officer-involved shootings?
Yes, I do.
Aside from training, do you, as an officer, have experience in officer-involved shootings?
Yes, I have.
I mean, with as many years as you've spent on as a highway trooper, do you have experience in officer-involved shootings involving you as a trooper?
Yes, I do.
And then in all of your other capacities, serving through DPS for the many years you've served?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Would you mind taking us a little bit through some of the things you observed as we watch the videos of what happened with Trooper Webb?
I don't mind at all.
So for the record, I'm showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 7. And Ranger, I'm going to every once in a while stop it and let you kind of tell us what you see going on. If there's a point where you'd like me to stop it, please let me know and I will.
Yes, sir.
Why are you driving like that? What is wrong with you? I'm a little crazy. Well, a little crazy is going to get you in jail tonight. 1805.
All right, Ranger, what can you tell us about what you've seen so far?
Well, initially, the trooper, if you'll notice, he touches the back tail light that's that helps us later on if for whatever reason the guy flees or does something nefarious to the trooper. The troopers put his palm print to positively identify the vehicle as the one that he touched. Given the circumstances that led to this traffic stop, if you watched the vehicle, it drove on the shoulder, it's weaving in and out, so the driver's driving erratically, and it's not something that's normal. So trooper makes it to the window, makes contact with Mr. Cahill, and the man immediately says that he's crazy, and that's just not something that you see every day or encounter every day.
So at this point, in your experiences as Highway Patrol, I guess, and I don't know how you would describe it, but, is there ever a time when you're going to, this is just a traffic stop, I'm not going to follow procedure, I'm letting my guard down? Or is every single traffic stop, you got to do it in a manner which you don't know whether it's going to be a good one or a bad one?
Well, there's plenty of videos out there that show you what happens whenever you're complacent. So you have to be tactically sound in your approach of the vehicle. If not, you're a sitting duck, you're a sitting target. For Trooper Webb, you'll see that he blades off and he gets a full square view of Mr. Cahill. It's because he's seen a rifle case in the back. And now, the thing that we train our troopers is that hands can hurt you. It's not the feet, it's the hands. So the hands reaching for something, whether it be in the waistband or in the console or somewhere, that gives you a better view. You'll see the trooper kind of pan out to the side to where he can get a good full vision of Mr. Cahill.
Show me now, on 152 769, 152 769. Yeah, Plea 205 152 769, 1407 hours.
I think you'll see his hand move towards his handgun. That may be just something that is done subconsciously. You see something that could be a potential threat, you'll just, through training, through watching other video, to your own experience, you're reacting to what you're seeing inside the vehicle. You're reacting to what that trooper or what that subject is doing in front of you. So that's likely why you see what you're seeing right now.
And like you said, if you've already seen a rifle bag, now you've got someone who's trying to give you the excuse, well, I'm a little crazy. I mean, are these things as they're building up, you're having to take these data points in, and you're having to make decisions on a real-time basis what to do next? Right,
and he's remaining cool and calm as well. He's not going into full-on panic mode, pulling out his handgun and getting the guy out at gunpoint at this point. It hasn't risen to that level. He's meeting what he's observing with an appropriate amount of wherewithal and contact and context with the individual that he's making contact with.
They don't get a chance to do that. At 125 miles an hour, you drive on that shoulder and get back to the road like that, you think that's safe?
20 of them going forward by traffic.
You're going to kill yourself. You're going to kill yourself. NASCAR drivers, you do that every day? Are you that good? Can you predict what everybody else is going to do?
No, what about it?
That's my point. Okay, at 125 miles an hour, that's pretty safe.
Can you take it? It's in the left lane.
Oh, it's a crash? Yeah, it's going to take me around.
Okay. That's what we thought. Okay. You go. Let's talk about it. Y'all get ready to turn on here? Everything turn on here? Everything turn on your light. In a second, I'll be right back with you. We'll do this recording. Okay? Stay right there.
Yes, sir.
It's important to note that he tells him to stand right there, and the purpose behind all that is what he observed earlier is the rifle case, the soft case that's in there. He closes the door just to add an added barrier to that subject in order for him to overcome that small obstacle, just to buy himself a little bit more time. And like I said, a lot of times these things are done subconsciously, just based off of your training, your experience, and what you've been exposed to. So I know it falls back on experience, but.
And let me ask you this, because as we're watching it, we see Bryan Cahill look left, look right. Yeah. Does that have significance to you?
It does. We would call those pre-incident indicators, where you have an individual that's assessing kind of the lay of the land and seeing, okay, when's my best opportunity to either flee or fight or do whatever he's going to do. But we see that a lot with people that want to flee or want to, assault our troops.
Stay right there. Hey. Nope. Hey. Do not reach inside your car. Stay right there. Like I told you. I'm telling you. Right now.
23677 Memory County.
Yeah, right there. You do not go back to your car. Do you understand that?
So Mr. Cahill's already been told numerous times not to move, to stay put, and he disobeys those commands. And it's all for officer safety and for his own safety as well, to keep him in that area, because we've seen guys get shot over this, especially if there's a threat and the hands are somewhere. It builds up, and then you have maybe an investigator or an officer that has never experienced this before and thinks that the person's reaching in for some sort of weapon. But Trooper Webb remains calm, very authoritative, and is giving him commands and is reiterating those commands to make sure that he understands that he needs to stand where he's being told to stand. And if you watched Mr. Cahill, he stops there and he's staring directly at the trooper, not saying anything. Those are just more pre-incident indicators that there's something not right about this contact. This contact isn't going as smoothly as most do, 99.9% of the time.
Do you understand what I'm telling you to do? Do not go back to your car. Do you understand that? Right there. Do you understand that? No. Stay right there. Do not go back to your car. Do you understand what I'm telling you to do? Do you understand what I'm telling you to do? Do not go back to your car. Do you understand that?
Stop. So a lot of times too, before somebody, when somebody's kind of met their end or gotten to the end of their rope, they'll do what we call depersonalizing somebody, where they'll look away and not want to talk to that person anymore. I've experienced that with my wife before, but but that's basically what's happening. It's a depersonalization where they're looking away because they're tired of communicating with that person, because their point is not getting across to that person. So that is what I believe is occurring right there.
And let me ask you this too. I mean, and you've already said it. 99.9% of the interactions that you're going to have as a law enforcement officer with members of the public generally go good. Even if it may be a ticket, even if it may be coming up on a wreck, but generally they're not hostile, they're not violent.
Correct. That's correct.
When we are in law enforcement and we talk about the kind of individuals who, for lack of a better term, kind of buck up to a police officer, right? Is that kind of a scary situation? Is that a scarier individual who can stand and argue and stand and disregard members of law enforcement?
Well, it's kind of, I hate to say it, become the norm in this current day and age, but it's not anything that you get I would say you get used to. You should get used to. It's something that you should take note of. I would call it a pre-incident indicator because, you know, in most times, I mean, I can tell you right now, when I was a trooper, you had to earn a ticket. I mean, it's just, you really did. But, you know, at the end of the day, you know, you have somebody that's arguing with somebody that's, you know, wearing the uniform. He stopped you for a probable cause. You know he's got probable cause, but yet you still want to argue with that person. You know what I mean, in this case, you have a rifle case in the back and you're still walking towards the vehicle after being told to stay where you're at. There's just a disregard for Trooper Webb's authority in that traffic stop.
I mean, being honest, I get nervous when I get pulled over and I've got a badge. So, I mean, when you see someone who is, well, one, he's a big dude. You'd agree with me on that, right?
Absolutely.
When you've got a trooper standing there with a badge, with a sidearm, I mean, screaming commands, you stay right here. Do you understand me? Get right back here. I mean, that's not normal. That's not what we generally see out of our public, correct?
That's correct. It's starting to teeter in the wrong direction.
And Ranger, I'm going to stop it for a second. Because we know what's about to happen next. Would you talk to us just a little bit about the difference between the traffic stop and the interaction now that we have computers on board instead of the way it was when we had clipboards?
So when I came on in Highway Patrol, we had clipboards and we hand wrote our tickets. It was more up close and personal. If something was amiss or something, the guy was about to flee, he'd drop the clipboard and go to work. You know, especially if, you know, you had something that rose to the level of the offense, which, I mean, if the guy's trying to evade on foot, then you'd have an offense. So it puts the troopers, it's nice to have a printout ticket. It looks good on paper. However, it puts our troopers at times at a disadvantage because their attention is divided. Think about any time you're looking at your device and somebody's saying something to you, or a kid's doing something in the house, or your husband, wife, whatever, and you're totally missing because you're focused on a screen. That can have the same effect on a trooper that's out there on the side of the road, you know, typing in the information to document what's occurring during his traffic stop, whether he's issuing a citation or fixing to arrest somebody for reckless driving. So whenever you're looking at a screen, it's highly unlikely that you're looking at the suspect. Now, we do train our guys to multitask in those instances, but still you're at a disadvantage because you're in your vehicle. You're going to have to get out of the vehicle in order to gain that ground. And by that time, as you can see, even though he's a big man, he still made it to his car, was able to put it in drive, and go.
And so that I don't have to keep stopping, let me ask you this. With regards to physical, stress-related effects on the body, when a trooper has someone run from them, where we now know we are going to be in a high-speed pursuit, how does that affect the body as far as how it reacts to that stress? Well,
your adrenaline's pumping. You might see a reduction in your field of view, but for most of our troops out there, you know, quite a few of them have been in pursuits. I would venture to say that Trooper Webb started out in West Texas, probably went and had a lot of pursuits. So this is probably not an old hat for him, but he's probably been in a few. So this isn't as stressful. However, there are a number of things that Trooper Webb is having to take into account during that pursuit. He's having to operate his radio. He's having to drive cautiously. and during that time, he's having to watch the suspect and what he's doing, and he's reacting to what he's doing as well, and being ready, having his weapon ready. So there's just a number of things that Trooper Webb is having to do during this, what I would call a life-changing event.
Stop right there, stop! Stop right now! You better stop right now! Do you understand me? You better stop! 1111, tell me 1080. He's stuck in the grass right here at Spring Creek exit. Get in there, unit.
10-4, I need another unit to respond. UNC northbound near Spring Creek exit for crash for 1D1111. Go ahead.
Your traffic. Move!
What do we see here?
You see him blow that intersection, and then obviously he has to wait for the traffic to move to get behind him to maintain visual on him. And at that point, obviously he's already gotten on the radio, and he's turned his lights on. He's got his lights and siren on. I mean, it's clear that he's in a pursuit.
1805 Dallas. 11805.
Copy 10-6, Collins County, 152773. Let's go 11 on WhatsApp.
Now, Ranger, you had a chance to interview Trooper Webb, is that correct?
That's correct.
Were you made aware of problems he began to develop with regards to his electrical system in that vehicle?
Correct. As soon as he hits the little rail system that's on this gate, his whole console shuts off. So his lights, siren, radio, and the lock-in mechanism, the switch that controls the lock-in mechanism on his rifle, was out of service.
If you would, let's start with the radio system. Why is it such a critical incident with regards to his radio going out as he's starting to enter these apartment buildings?
Because that's going to allow, if he's able to get on the radio, he can tell his dispatch exactly which building he's going to. He can tell them immediately, if what he's observing as he's driving into that final rest of that vehicle. So there's a lot of intel that he could have pushed out prior to getting to where the vehicle ended up in front of Building 4.
And is it a big fear for an officer out there to end up in a situation where his or her rescue doesn't know where they're at?
That's correct.
Now, with regards to the long gun, let's talk about that for a second. Why, and especially what we end up knowing is about to happen, is it a big deal or not really that important that he was able to get that long gun?
It's a huge deal. It put him at a huge disadvantage to be engaged in a gunfight with an individual at that distance. Cahill was armed with a long gun, shoulder-fired weapon. We've had troopers shot and killed with that same type of firearm. We've experienced that in my time, where they've been shot through the windshield with a shotgun. The AR platform that he's given, that he's issued, would have allowed him to have more firepower to meet that threat. It would have given him a more stable platform. It would have given him a sighting optic to where he has a better field of view. Instead of looking over his sights on his handgun, he would have actually been looking through a holographic sight that he could engage and send multiple rounds with pretty pinpoint accuracy with that AR platform, and it put him at a real big disadvantage by being armed with his handgun only.
Now, just so the jury understands, about a year or so ago, you and I went out. I had just gotten an AR, and you helped me sight that thing in, right?
That's correct.
If you would, explain to the jury how you explained it to me on why it would have been safer for the people in that apartment building as well if the trooper had been able to have that AR platform.
Because you have 3 points of contact. You have the shoulder, you have the pistol grip, and then you have the foregrip. And that allows that officer to look through his sights and engage the individual, as opposed to if he's got his handgun, and there's a lot of movement here. you're missing that third point of contact. He's not shooting it like this. He's shooting it out here, and he's reacting to a threat. So as he's being shot at, he's taking a shot, and you'll see some impacts in the back of his vehicle. It's because he's reacting to that threat, but he's also ducking behind, his cover, and that's why you would see some defects in the back of the vehicle. I'd submit to you, if he had the AR platform, that's coming out at a lot more feet per second, and he could have engaged with Cahill, and truth be told, we might not be here today.
With regards to that AR platform too, especially at the distance we're talking about between those two vehicles, a lot more accuracy as far as putting rounds down range on your target than you're going to have shooting a handgun at that distance.
Absolutely. So if there's just the slightest deviation in that barrel, it can go, that round can be way off target. Whereas on a rifle, if you have it appropriately applied to your body, this kind of deviation is not going to move that round very much at all. It can at a long distance. However, at the distance that they are at, it's not going to be that big of a game changer.
So it would have been safer not only for our trooper, but could have been safer for the people in that apartment building as well.
Absolutely, yes.
Once you get in there,
Oh, and also before we start with what ends up happening, who has the advantage at this point? Once they enter that apartment complex, and he's following after Cahill, who has the advantage at this point?
Cahill.
And why is that?
Because he knows exactly what he's going to do. Trooper Webb he's reacting to the threat that's in front of him.
After that initial volley from the defender, do we actually see the Trooper Webb's vehicle moving?
Correct.
What's going on there?
Because it's still in drive. He's having to put it in park, or else the vehicle's going to continue moving forward and put him extremely close to the defendant.
And in fact, were you able to go back and look at the troops' vehicle? You had described about the long gun and putting rounds right into that windshield. Were you able to go back and look at the troops' vehicle and where
yes, I would.
Defects in that windshield?
Yes, yes, there were.
And right where that troop would have been if he hadn't gotten out quicker.
Absolutely.
As we're watching this video, the in-car facing forward on Bryan Cahill, are there anything that we should be noticing with regards to the way he's shooting that should scare us about anybody in that apartment complex?
He's just errantly firing rounds in the area of Trooper Webb. He's not engaging him by aiming down his sights. He's placing his weapon up. Some things you'd probably see in the movies, where somebody just puts a weapon up and engages. Cops, on the other hand, law enforcement, we've got a saying that there's a lawyer behind each bullet. So we have to account for each round that we send down range. So Trooper Webb is taking that into account, but also he's under a lot of firepower with regard to the shotgun and the two handguns that Cahill transitions to.
And so, I mean, even the best highly trained officers in this situation aren't going to be 100% accurate. Like a lot of people in the public think, we can shoot just wings off a fly in that kind of a situation. Yeah,
it's a myth. Anytime you have somebody that is sending rounds towards you and also has cover and concealment, they're hard to hit. It's hard to, even we've seen officers that missed from here to the end of this deal right here. stressful situations, they add a different component to the shooting.
But so as we watch it, of note to you was Cahill, when he just sticks that gun out there, that's
right.
Putting everybody at risk.
Correct. And you got the buildings behind him and behind Trooper Webb. It's just, it's disregard for the public.
Okay. Now we just saw the long gun, the shotgun being shot twice. Is that right?
Yes.
May I approach, Judge? I got you this time. Now, Ranger, did you get to talk to? You haven't been able to talk to, because you've been under the rule, you haven't been able to talk to Ranger Simmons, have you?
I've not.
We had to move through stuff pretty quick. So I want to make sure we're all on the same page here. Have you had a chance to look at State 18? Can you see that from there? How about now? Is that a little bit better? Okay. So if we're looking at State 18, and you see the blue squares here, if I'm to tell you we're using this furthest to the right vehicle as Trooper Webb's, right in front of it, see the walkway lines? That's going to be Bryan Cahill's. We had 2 Nissan Altimas above it, and then that little white hatchback looking car right there. Did you know that was actually Zachary Pence's car? Okay. But just to kind of orient ourselves here, Troop's car, Cahill's car, and then all of the ammunition and items collected out there. Fair enough? Okay. Did you ever go and look in Building 6, the one that was behind the troopers, the trooper squad?
So, yes.
Okay. And so if the jury remembers, were you able to see in the apartments when he was firing that shotgun, we ended up finding slugs going through a wrought iron fence and through windows over here. Is that correct? Okay. So we just saw him fire that shotgun from this in-car video, right? You saw that?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you had mentioned transitioning to other weapons, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Did he just transition to a second weapon?
Yes, he did.
Okay. And I want, if you will, I'm going to jump back 10 seconds. And were you aware that his pants in the waistband holsters were found in his pants?
Yes.
Okay. If you would, look at this and see if his movements are consistent with pulling out a pistol from in the waistband, kind of in, you know, and I guess, I don't know how to say this, but positioned in the lower back of his jeans. Right there. Did you see that? How he's reaching back and pulling, and then comes up with a gun.
Yes, it appeared that way in the video.
Back and see if, can you tell whether he's firing with both hands or just one? And I don't know whether you can or not. I'm just asking to see if it looks to you like both hands actually have something in them.
At one point, yes, you'll be able to see that. If you pay close attention, it's at that last volley that you just played through that you hear the air being deflated from his tire, and it's at that point that Trooper Webb is to the back right portion, which is at that height of where his ankle would have been.
Okay. So let me jump back. that's clearly right hand up, firing from his right hand.
Correct.
Okay. Was that the hiss? Okay. Okay, something just happened there. Judge, can I have that pointer? Can I borrow that again? I'm going to ask for it this time before I need it. Thank you. Now, when you watched this video, did you notice something that really stuck out in your mind? And I'm going to have to back up because it just happened, but did you notice something in this video that led to you doing some further investigation?
Yes.
Okay. Let me back up for a second, and then if you don't mind, Judge, can you have permission to stand? I want you to show the jury what it was that you saw in this video that stuck out to you. Let me back it up. What area does the jury need to be watching? Okay, that area right there, that window. I'm sorry, what just happened? Just open. Okay, so while you were watching this video, you noticed from that apartment the blinds just opened. Okay. Now, do you notice after those blinds open, Bryan Cahill's field of fire changes?
Correct.
Where does his field of fire change to?
More on 422.
Okay.
The window.
So that the jury understands, after the evidence sweep, after, the scene was cleared, Zachary Pence was not known to you, not known to the investigation at that point. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Was it that video that actually led you to finding Zachary Pence and learning what actually was going on during those moments?
Yeah, so after I observed that, I thought to myself, well, I have another victim in this case. So I needed to process that area in case it wasn't processed, just to definitively tie that evidence to a new victim. So I went and processed that evidence, and after I had gotten done, I had my vehicle backed up in that area, and Mr. Pence walked up, and I asked him if he knew who lived in 422, and that's when he told me that he lived there.
Okay. Let's watch that again then, and that way the jury can watch the window and then see Mr. Cahill's reaction. You know what, I don't know. I'll back it up. You can actually see those bullets hidden by the garage. Is that correct?
That's correct.
We'll do one more. Yes, sir.
At that time, I didn't know that Zach had fired towards Cahill, because I didn't know if that was a report of Trooper Webb. Just did not know. It wasn't until I sat down with Mr. Pence and we walked through what happened that he indicated to me that he saw our trooper in distress being shot at, and that he took action to try to help our trooper.
Okay. Thank you, sir. I think for a little while at least, you're good to sit down.
All right.
And were you aware that actually one of those, the jury's already seen it, but one of the fired bullet fragments found in that underneath that hood of that Firebird actually went back to that Beretta that Zach Pence used?
Yes.
I want to talk a little bit about the significance of Zach Pence firing at that moment. Explain to the jury what you see with regards to the impact on Bryan Cahill's actions based on that now fire coming from another angle.
Yes. So in a tactical sense, we would call that an L-shaped ambush. So it basically divides the attention of the person that you're sending fire towards. So he's not only looking at his initial threat, now he's having to engage a threat from a higher platform. So it makes for a bad situation for that person.
So in this instance, Zach Pence shooting that weapon, putting the defendant in a position where now I've got two people shooting at me, you know, the good tactical decision is not to stay in that place any longer, it's to get out.
That's correct.
That's exactly what Bryan Cahill did at that moment, right? Now that he recognizes that, he makes a good tactical decision and retreats.
Yeah, it's not long after Zach engages with him that he leaves and flees.
In your estimation, and I mean, I know we can't know what would have happened next, but in your estimation, is it very significant at that point in this gunfight that Zachary Pence took that action?
It's significant because our trooper was down to one magazine.
Okay. Our trooper was down to one magazine. How many rounds is that?
That's going to be 17 rounds.
Okay. So 17 rounds if he's got one of the longer, I guess, I guess for that 6 hour, that's the standard?
That's the standard loadout for it.
So he's down to 17 rounds. Let me, if you will, show you what's been marked. State's Exhibit 244. Do you remember seeing the inside of that Firebird?
I do.
And first off, just before we get too far, did that thing have like tarp and a whole bunch of duct tape and all kinds of stuff in it?
It did.
The Firebird? Okay. A lot of stuff that really doesn't make a lot of sense. Fair enough?
That's fair enough.
Okay. Going into State's Exhibit 245, on that other side, you know, in the driver's seat, we see more duct tape, but right there, that black bag, you see that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Did you ever open that up or look in there?
I was made aware, and at some point, I know I've observed the magazines that were in there.
All right. Let me show you State's 246. That look like the magazines we found?
Yes.
Judge, may I approach? Okay. State's 247 being... you know, so what we got here in 246, we've got two extended clips, two clips up there, and then a double ammo pouch, which eventually we open and we get two more clips, correct? Okay. Are you aware of how many rounds were in that top one?
I was at one point, but I'd have to count it again.
All right, let's do it together. Okay, that's 5 across. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 31. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 31. 9 millimeter as opposed to the 40 cal we see down here on this magazine. Okay. So now we're at 62, right? Okay. Let's take that next mag. 5, 10, 11, 12. All right. 5, 10, 11, 12. All right. What are we at now?
24 plus 62.
56?
No.
Ida? 86. I hear it might be 86. Okay. I mean, I went to law school. I didn't go to school. All right. So 86 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 86 plus 12. 98? All right. 98 9mm rounds. How many did the troop have? No, I'm saying, how many did he have at the end of that gunfight? 17. So we've got 98 rounds for the 9mm. The Glock 40 cal, we've got another clip, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. All right. So by the time that Zach Pence starts to fire down on Bryan Cahill, is it fair to say not only, I mean, we know the troop was outgunned, but the troop at that point, if Bryan Cahill had been able to stay in the fight and get to his other magazines, he would have way outnumbered the trooper as far as rounds left.
Yeah, it would have put him at a really bad disadvantage, for sure.
I want to talk a little bit and transition now towards the actions of the defendant once he made it up to his apartment, and talk about a little bit of what you had to deal with, okay? You know, one of the things we haven't talked about was, how were you informed that this had happened to this trooper and that you were going to be called to duty?
I was at my office, and I received a call from a detective at Plano who had just heard over the radio that one of our troopers had been shot. I was unsure as to what his status was, but I immediately started driving towards the area where it was reported to have happened, and I started calling other rangers to come and assist and do certain things, like meet with Trooper Webb at the hospital, get his status, get more up-to-date information, because obviously that was relevant and important to getting this individual in custody.
Okay, so part of your role, even initially, was sending out other rangers and other law enforcement to help you.
Correct. Yes, because it's my assigned area. I assumed that I was going to be the lead, so I started taking steps to get wheels in motion. That I knew there was things that needed to happen before other things could happen.
Okay. Where did you report to first? Did you go to a police agency, or did you go to the scene?
I went immediately to the scene.
Okay. When you arrived at that scene, and I know it may not be exact, but around when do you think you arrived at that scene?
Approximately 3 o'clock.
At that time, was Lebanon already shut down?
Yes.
Okay. Was the toll road already, was part of the toll road shut down by that point?
I believe it was.
Okay. With regards to putting schools on lockdown and clearing out businesses, would that have been your role, or would that have been Frisco's role?
That would have been Frisco's role.
Let's talk a little bit about kind of what you saw and what you did.
About an hour and a half. Whenever there's a good transition point, let me know so we can take our afternoon break.
Judge, I'm fine. I'm fine taking a break right now.
Okay. Members of the jury, let's take a 10-minute break. Please be back in the jury room in 10 minutes.
All right.
Remember that.
Excellent, sir. How are you doing? Where's your hat?
Oh, it's back here.
Okay, all right. All right.
Something else to distract. How you doing?
I'm all right. I'm all right.
You're a fan of Mickey Mouse.
Who's the leader of the club that's made for you and me? My daughter-in-law is expected. Okay. But in November. Got some time, and we had the big gender reveal party, and it's supposed to be a grandson, but then she went to the doctor. The doctor said, not so bad. She said, my PA is helping son, but I ain't quite so sure. Don't clean the room yet.
But she's about to.
She's due in early November.
Where are we, we're in June?
We're in June, so that's.
5 months left, so she's about 5 months
About
left?
4 months along,
Yeah.
5 months.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
We're excited, yeah. She's a Catholic and he became a Catholic.
Because of her?
Because of her.
Okay.
So, you know how those Catholics are.
I married one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to, therein hangs the tail, right? So when he started dating, right, you know, if you're happy with it, we're happy. You don't have to think about it. Okay. Catholics are on the better side. Friday night.
Yeah, we go to a Methodist church.
So then, right, we had to.
I'll choose her pastor, right?
Who's the most useless person in the wedding party? It is the father of the groom, right? But in order to marry a Catholic, you just can't go marry a Catholic, right? You have to, he's been working this whole time.
If you wanna have a Baptist or wedding.
So he brings me this morning, right? So I'm supposed to go in as the father of the groom. So I haven't done it.
Hey.
So it's just a little simple form. Is he single and free to marry?
My boss called me and said, hey, man,
Exclusively under the Bryan. Yes, he does. Will he accept children?
we got some other guys that
Gift from God? Sure, he will. Okay? Will he ever accept?
that's what you want.
So I'm figuring, well, this has to be signed before notary. No, it doesn't, okay? Because a lying Protestant is a lying liar. Sure. Certainly not screw with the lie before mere notary, okay? But maybe a Protestant wouldn't lie to a clergyman. Sure.
It has to be signed in front of a person and of your church.
Clergy, all right? So I've never been to church, it's a whole different deal, Thursday, okay? So you have to go there and you have to talk to the receptionist and you have to tell her why you're there, explain the whole story. Okay? Now, I'm sure if you were there to give $1 million to the operating account, you'd be sure like a green deal. But you're not. The most recently joined junior assistant pastor, now you have to tell the story all over, okay? So, I'll tell the story all over again. Now, this meeting is talking about Little Green Man. This is a capture of the Methodist Church.
Yeah.
I don't know
what that means, do we?
Go back and talk about it. Pick it up.
You need some sleep.
Probably, well,
you know how many times I've gone through this, and like, I mean, all these emails,
so I'm happy, I got it.
I'm having,
Next time around,
and I,
Yeah.
did you see the video?
Oh, I did that.
You might know.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what I said to Don, I said, this girl is more of a Catholic than you believe.
So that makes you feel well, right?
There you go.
Okay, that's great.
I see that.
When they got married, when their baby comes, they'll get married in a year. That's what this has to do.
Yeah, sure. Hey.
Well, so he's 34, hard for you, right? You're carrying this parasite in there, stucky, right?
This conversation has warped.
Devouring your, devouring.
Yeah.
It's not that easy.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. You have older numbers? 9 and 11. 9 and 11? Yeah. So, somewhere in the middle. Yeah. They're worth it. It's a little weird. They're worth it.
They're worth it. They're worth it. You see the world through new eyes. She's been a little bit sick, but
Yeah.
also that's something now that you have been
Yeah.
lately.
Talk a lot about that guy. I've been there. Actually, a few times. Make a really big round.
You're the bad guy.
Had I done that, I would have, that's a little, I would have. I
You
would have volunteered it.
want to make a closing argument? I said, no, sir, I have nothing to say. I want to make sure the record knows that I've been in my sentence. She goes, yeah, because you said it before the record was like, she's like, what about this deal? I said, you said it before the record. Okay, he goes, okay, well, you're done with your closing? He goes, okay, your sentence, 4 years. We're about to talk to Judge, you know that. Oh, yeah, sure.
Yes and no.
That's a good question.
Where do you think things were before?
You got nothing. Light day, you said zero.
And I think, okay, so I know Mason started Friday yesterday. Might be going tomorrow too. I know there's this one going on right now. I think they're picking tomorrow for November.
Real, yeah.
Real ain't gotta tell you, he's real.
Oh, Thompson, they picked the jury today and started today for Thompson, for an eye robbery.
Oh, I saw that, that was the lady.
219 is trial.
Please be seated. Mr. Mitchell?
Is this kind of what was considered the command post during the standoff with Bryan Cahill? Yes, sir. The command post is up here. Okay. Do you see yourself in that picture? Yes. Really point yourself out. Kind of see the hat, huh? All right. What were the areas of concern with regards to those of you in command? Well, okay, let me back up. First, you're the lead investigator. Does that mean you took over SWAT operations?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Who was running SWAT operations that day?
That had been the lieutenant from Frisco PD.
Lieutenant Ryan Moore?
Correct.
And why don't, I mean, you are a SWAT operator, you are a former Army sniper, why did you not take those operations over?
It just made more sense. They know the lay of it. They already had their team there. In these types of situations, you have to use the resources that are available to you, and that's the most expedient as well. You can't overanalyze this situation. You know, you have to make a decision and run with it. And in this case, we believe that was the best decision because they had their team available, and they arrived on scene pretty quick. And then you know, it was my job at that point to help them with additional resources if need be.
And I want to talk to you about some of the coordination with the other agencies. Were you aware that some of the other agencies and SWAT teams were used in different roles as well? For instance, evacuating apartment dwellers out.
Yes.
Why was it important to get people out of their apartments during this?
Because anytime that we utilized any type of, well, for one, we had an individual that had already engaged our trooper and tried to kill our troop, and after that, anytime we utilized any type of tactical intervention, whether it be bangs or gas or 9-bangers, whatever tactical intervention, it was met with gunfire. So it was important. We didn't know where those rounds were going at that time. So it was incumbent on us to, because we are the Department of Public Safety and because, you know, that's what our primary mission is as a cop or law enforcement, is to protect and safeguard the citizens, was to get them out of harm's way.
So once Bryan Cahill was in his apartment, was only that one unit, that unit number 4, was that the only place where anybody was really in danger, though?
Absolutely not. There was all the surrounding areas that were within that, you know, the max effective range of that round that he was firing.
I mean, we've already seen that he was shooting lead slugs in the building 6 into those apartments.
Correct.
We'll talk about what you observed in his apartment here in a second. But I guess what I'm asking is, that day, were your concerns only for just that apartment complex, or did it extend even further than that apartment?
It extended further. You had other businesses, schools, and not to mention all the law enforcement that was arriving on scene. You know, not that LE is lax in these types of situations, but you know, bullets, they have the right of way. So if you don't get out of their way, or if you're not behind some sort of cover, you know, you could potentially get hit.
Were the decisions made as far as the tactical decisions? I guess you said those were by Frisco. So the use of the robot, reaching doors, stuff like that, that was done by Frisco. Is that correct?
That's correct. Frisco, Plano, and the reason being, we've started to rely heavily on robots because they're expendable. You know, our lives aren't. So we'd rather get a robot shot up than a cop. You know.
Well, and I mean, in this case, Bryan Cahill fired at least one round through that door.
Correct.
Okay. With regards to drones, were drones being used that day?
Yes.
Were the drones able to
Yes.
Yes.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as States 353. Do you know that to be a short drone clip showing the door structure in Bryan Cahill's apartment?
Yes.
Okay. We'll offer States 353 at this time.
No objection.
States 353 is admitted.
Publish, Your Honor.
Yes.
All right. I'm going to stop it for just a second. What are we looking at right there in States 353?
You're observing the third story window of Bryan Cahill's apartment. It's the window that's in the living room area of his apartment.
And if you would, will you pull that microphone just a little bit closer to you?
Yes.
All right. So that's the window looking kind of that front room, that front living room.
Correct.
At the very top of the screen, what is it that we see right there?
That's going to be the door, the front door.
And I'm going to pause it right there at 328. Ranger, what is it that we were able to see by that drone usage on that front door?
It's an additional barricade on the door.
So if a standard breach had been tried or attempted on that door, there was a barricade that's not standard that probably would not have been planned for. Is that correct?
Correct. It would have taken multiple hits before they were able to gain access, which for a prolonged period of time, you already have somebody that's fired through the door. That's not a good scenario for those officers.
What is a fatal funnel?
Basically, it's an area where you have a grouping of potential operators, and basically the assailant or suspect can fire in a small area and have the most casualties without having to deviate too much to the left or right, because you have everybody funneling through a threshold or a hallway.
And so in this scenario, if you had operators bunched up expecting to be able to breach a door and flow in, now they're sitting there trying to hit it multiple times with gunfire coming out there, that would have been kind of a fatal funnel area.
Correct. It would have, once you would have heard the pounding, then, at that point, it allows that individual to regain a tactical advantage. If he's in the back room, it allows him time to engage.
All right. The jury's heard from Ranger Simmons. We have gone through the apartment. We've gone through a lot of the evidence collection. Did you get first of all, do you remember the Plano robot being in the defendant's bedroom?
Yes.
That thing is a monster, is it not?
It is.
Okay. And were you aware that at least while the work was being done, there was an ability to have Plano come out and move that thing out of the way and while y'all did your work? Right.
They weren't a part of processing the scene.
Okay. And so that robot wasn't moved until afterwards. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. After that robot was moved, and the family was then allowed access, so your processing is done. At some point, Plano is allowed to go get their robot after your process is already done. So if items were underneath that robot, you wouldn't have known. Fair enough?
That's fair.
Okay. And in this case, you ended up getting a call from some of the Cahill family. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay. What did they ask you to come do?
They asked me to come and recover a firearm.
May I approach again, Judge?
Yes.
I'm going to go ahead and we'll talk about some of these now and some of them later, but are these all pictures of the areas we've been talking about, and then your collections with regards to that second trip out to his apartment?
Yes, these.
Okay. And then 389, is that a picture of the area across the street from the apartment complex?
Yes, school.
380 and 381, just pictures of kind of the Pence area garage and pictures of Cahill firing in that direction?
Correct.
Okay. We'll offer states 380 to 389. And while defense counsel's looking at that, I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 148.
We have no objection to those exhibits that were tendered 380 through 389.
States 380 through 389 are admitted.
Let me do this. I'm going to show you what's been marked. You've had a chance prior to your testimony to look at the contents of both of these envelopes. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
You care about it. You have a sharp knife?
Go ahead.
And we took time to actually label the exhibits within there. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Cut yourself.
I know. I just remember doing some work with a ranger with a dull knife the other day.
All right, okay.
All right, so we got states exhibits 146 through 151. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Are those the other than the 9mm PT 609? These are the collections you made from the Cahill family and also the 2 cartridges you got from Zachary Pence. Is that correct?
Yes.
We'll offer states 146 through 151.
May I take the witness on voir dire, Your Honor?
Yes.
All right, so are they, from Mr. Pence, are they live rounds or cartridge cases?
The casings, sir. The fired casings.
All right, that's all I have in voir dire. We have no objection to any of the exhibits.
145 through 151 are admitted.
All right, Ranger. Looking at State's Exhibit number 380, we see some markers, some evidence markers there between those 2 garages. What are those?
Those are defects that were caused by Cahill shooting towards Pence.
Okay. So when we saw in that video Mr. Pence shooting down towards his Firebird and we see him return fire, we actually found bullet defects right underneath that window.
Correct.
381, is that a still from actually, you see Bryan Cahill's weapon pointed towards that window?
Yes.
All right, moving to State's Exhibit 382. When were these photos taken?
Those were taken on 4/2
Okay.
of 19.
Okay, so Trooper Webb makes his stop on March 29th. The standoff goes into March 30th. Robot's removed sometime after processing, and once that robot's removed, you get the call from the family.
Correct. Yeah, they're inside the residence cleaning out belongings, and that's when they come across that firearm.
Okay. And in 382, this is the picture prior to making your markers.
That's correct, as it was found. Or that's the way she told me it was found.
Fair enough. Then in States 383, now we see where you actually start putting markers down.
Correct.
And with regards to States 383, the weapon we see, is it your practice? You take pictures of the weapons as is?
Yes.
What are you trying to show us in 385?
That there is a round chamber.
Okay. And you now know that there's cartridge casings from that fourth weapon in the apartment after the firearm examiner's report. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. State's Exhibit 386, what are those?
Spent cartridges.
So jury's already seen all the ones that Laura Simmons and her team found. Once that robot was removed, family found even more cartridge casings. Correct. And meaning more rounds were fired than we even thought of the last time we looked at pictures.
Yes.
387, what do we see on 387?
See a rifle slug into unspent, unfired cartridges.
Okay, so that's live ammunition.
That's correct.
And then, can you tell us what's your exhibit number 5?
That's a spent cartridge.
And then you turned that evidence over to DPS so that it was processed, and we were able to hear from the firearm examiner, Philip Long, testifying that he was able to match those to certain weapons.
Correct.
Have you had a chance to look over that firearms report?
I have.
Based on, let's see if I can escape from this for a second. I'm showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 211. Your agency number 59 was a 9mm cartridge case found out by the Firebird. Is it your understanding that that was actually examined and linked to one of the Taurus PT-111, one of the 9mm found in his apartment?
Yes.
Okay. So we found the Glock out by the Firebird, right?
That's correct.
He had dropped that. Knowing that there's another cartridge connected to a gun that's in the apartment, do you have a conclusion as to how many guns he had in the initial fight, and then how many guns we now know he had in the apartment?
Yeah, on the initial fight, he would have had 3.
Okay.
with an additional one inside the apartment.
Okay. So, shotgun and 2 pistols in the initial fight.
Yes,
One of those pistols goes back up to the apartment, and now, during the standoff, we have 2 pistols up there.
correct, 2 9mm pistols.
And both of those pistols have had cartridges linked to them in that apartment.
Yes,
Okay. Based on the firearms examiner's report, is it your understanding that there were 16 shots fired inside Bryan Cahill's apartment?
I believe that's correct.
At minimum, right? Because we talked about this a little bit, but your understanding is, all I can say for sure is how many cartridge casings I find.
Yes,
If there's a cartridge casing we don't find, so there could have been more shots.
correct.
But we know for sure if there's 16 linked to those 2 those Taurus 9mm in that apartment, we know he at least fired 16 times in the apartment.
Yes, and in addition to that, you also have the defects,
Correct. Okay.
the bullet holes.
Except for the shots where he was firing out the window at police officers.
Correct.
And just so we're clear, the cartridge, when I say cartridge casings, that's what's left behind once you fire that weapon.
Yeah, the fired cartridge case.
Before we transition away from the standoff, I want to talk to you a little bit about the concerns in that area. You had mentioned the surrounding areas. Are you aware of the school that's across the street from La Valencia?
Yes,
What kind of school is that?
it's a Montessori.
So that is a school that starts daycare up through grade school.
Yes,
Based on the actions of Bryan Cahill, was that school placed on lockdown?
it was.
In fact, businesses were being evacuated. That road was closed. The toll road was closed. Are you aware of the actions taken? I mean, lockdown, but the actions taken inside that school?
I believe they weren't allowed to have the parents. They had to have an escort of the children to their parents so they could pick them up.
In fact, for at least the first couple hours in Frisco, in multiple schools, we had, the alert that goes out is active shooter. And so we locked down those schools. Do you know any teachers?
I do.
You ever talk to teachers about what their protocol is when they have to go through an active shooter drill with their children?
I have before. As far as some are not trained, so they're not going to engage. They're going to just lock it down and basically stay in the room.
They have to decide where they're putting their kids, who's getting covered up by a teacher, who's not.
Correct.
Were you also aware that those teachers at that school had to run those children out to their parents, who had to come pick them up after 6 p.m. because those kids were locked down in that school?
Yes.
With armed Frisco police officers?
Yes.
Were you able to interview this defendant at the hospital?
I was.
Were you able to interview his mom?
I was.
Were you made aware that Frisco PD had intelligence officers who were out trying to figure out as much as they could about this individual during the lockdown?
Yes.
Were you aware that Frisco intelligence officer went and got Christine Cahill out of her job and I believe took her to Frisco PD?
Yes, I was aware.
And were you aware that an intelligence detective went and got John Cahill, this defendant's brother, and took him to Frisco PD and interviewed him?
Yes.
As part of your role with Collin County, have you had to kind of become familiar with the Collin County Jail?
Yes.
All right. Part of that being, you know, some of the standard protocol that's taken by the Collin County Jail when someone's brought in, and how they go through screening, and they talk to them about their history, and they talk about who they are, some of that kind of stuff.
Yes.
All right. At this time, Your Honor, we will offer State's Exhibit 398 under Business Record Affidavit and 362 under Business Record Affidavit.
There we go. No objection to 398 and no objection to 362.
And then we will offer 362A for demonstrative purposes as a summary of voluminous records to 362.
No objection to 362A.
States 362 and 398 are admitted. States 362 is admitted as a demonstrative aid.
May I have the Elmo, please, Judge? While that's being loaded up, Ranger, do you remember seeing pictures in Bryan Cahill's apartment, recovering, like, out of an ammo box, a whole bunch of medicine?
Yes.
Okay. And do you remember one of the physician's name on some of those medicines was a Paul Hamilton, M.D.?
I'd have to look at the prescription bottle again.
Okay. I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 321. Do you see a treating physician's name right there on that bottle of medicine?
Yes, I do.
Is it Paul Hamilton, M.D.?
Yes.
Can you tell the way it's turned? Probably can't tell what it is, huh? That's all right. Okay, so in 351, one of those pill bottles, we see Paul Hamilton, M.D., right?
Yes.
Okay. We just admitted States 398. Those are business records where we got records from Paul Hamilton, M.D., from the Texas Behavioral Health System. You have not seen these records, is that right?
That's correct. I have not.
These aren't your records.
No, they're not.
Okay. I'm going to tie them into another set of records here in a second. Are you aware oftentimes medical records, they kind of work backwards page-wise?
Yes.
All right. The top date up there at the very top, 7/17/06, is that correct?
Yes.
As it works, and just so we know who we're talking about here, at the very top of the page of the records, we're talking about Bryan Cahill, correct?
Correct.
We start seeing medications, right? And that flows from 06, and we keep going into 08, all the way into 2018. You see that?
Yes.
All right. Do you see at the very bottom it says Zyprexa?
Yes.
Okay. Olanzapine. And then it says Celexa. You see that?
Yes.
Okay. So in 2018, Bryan Cahill is being prescribed olanzapine, he's being, and I get these confused, Celexa and Zyprexa, but one of them is olanzapine, the other one is, no. We'll see it in a second. You have, though, kind of gone through some of the medical records since he's been in jail. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And just so the jury kind of understands how medical records work, there's a lot of them, right? Part of keeping people when we house people is documentation. Fair enough?
That's correct.
Okay. And within these medical records, is it fair to say every time Bryan Cahill is being looked at, being talked to, seen by nurses, seen by doctors, seen by staff, somewhere in here, in all kinds of different areas, that's being listed?
Yes, being documented in those reports.
When he first got in, there was a mental health assessment. He was seen by an actual medical doctor regarding his mental health.
Yes.
And as far, there's notes of that. There's notes of them checking on him every day. Let's do this. I think this may be an easier way to do it. Looking at States 362. Let's go through some of it. Judge, can I go back to my computer, please? All right. Nope, that's the wrong one. Sorry. There we go. All right. So when we start looking at it, we see things like exam forms where it shows they go in and they're taking labs from Bryan Cahill. And we see it where we see things like they're educating him on how to eat right and exercise and not take his medication, stuff like that.
That's correct.
All right. Then we get into what are called subjective interview forms, and we're not going through each one of these line by line, but we get what are called subjective interview forms where you can go in and you actually see a doctor, right? In this case, it's Trina Bivens, MD, going in on different dates. This one's going to be February 2nd of 21, but those medical records are going through medications, going through therapies, talking about how to best treat him, correct?
That's correct.
Unless he decides to refuse an offered visit, right?
Yes.
Okay. We get stuff like here where we can actually see the names of the medication that the jail is ordering for him. Like in this one, we see olanzapine, Zyprexa. Mm-hmm. Did you see a whole bunch of bottles of olanzapine in Bryan Cahill's apartment?
Yes.
And then we go into what's called medical administration records, right? Now, on medical administration records, we're actually able to see what medications Bryan Cahill takes and what medications he refuses, right?
Yes.
Okay. So we can see there at the top that he took his Celexa. You remember Celexa being one of the medications prescribed by Paul Hamilton at Texas Behavioral Systems?
Yes, sir. I believe it's an antidepressant.
Yes, sir. Antidepressant. Antidepressant that actually also acts as a mood stabilizer.
Yes.
All right. He refuses his HCTZ. Do you have high blood pressure?
I do not.
Okay. Do you know what
I should.
HCTZ is?
Yes, it's for high blood pressure.
Okay. He refuses his lisinopril. Do you know that to be a high blood pressure medication?
It is.
Okay. And then he takes his olanzapine, the Zyprexa. Do you know what that is?
Antipsychotic.
Okay. So then clonidine, and this one I don't have to ask you about because it actually shows on there. You take clonidine if your blood pressure goes up too high. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And he refuses that one.
Correct.
We can see there, on a pretty regular basis, we can tell what is Bryan Cahill taking while he's been in jail and what he has not. Is that fair?
Fair, sir.
Okay. And we actually put 362A is actually a summary. May I approach, Judge?
Yes.
Shows a summary where from 4/1/19 to May 20th of 2021, we've got how he's taking his medication. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Would you agree with me that almost every month during the time he's been here, except for real recently, he has consistently taken the antidepressant mood stabilizer, the antipsychotic,
Yes.
and he has consistently not taken his high blood pressure medication?
That's correct.
Okay. So while in jail, taking antidepressants, mood stabilizers, correct?
Yes.
While in jail, taking antipsychotic medication that he was given out in the free world that we found all over his apartment.
Correct.
Not taking his high blood pressure.
Yes.
Okay. Medication that he was using as an excuse to go driving 125, saying, I'm a little crazy, to a trooper.
Correct.
Okay. I got visitation 363. Is it calls? For record purposes, here's a disc. Perfect, thank you. Ranger, have you been able, you understand that within the Collin County Jail there are, there's a system which can record jail calls and it can record jail visitations, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. You have interviewed Christine Cahill, is that correct?
I have.
You have interviewed Bryan Cahill, is that correct?
Attempted to.
Okay. With regards to State's Exhibits 363 and 364, in those jail calls, are those discussions between Bryan Cahill and Christine Cahill?
They are.
Were you able to tell so because of not only the voices, but because of the subject matter about how they're talking?
Yes.
With regards to the jail visitation calls, did you recognize video of Bryan Cahill and Christine Cahill talking?
Yes.
At this time, we'll offer States 363 and 364.
No objection.
States 363, submitted for all purposes, 364, for all purposes.
And you'd agree with me, Bryan Cahill and his mom, they talk, we've probably got hundreds, if not up to 1,000 phone calls of them talking.
I believe that's accurate.
Okay. We could have pulled jail calls where they're talking about his cat. We could have pulled jail calls where they're talking about Walmart. Right.
Right.
Okay. And we also, you've listened to a lot of those jails. We also probably could have pulled 50 to 100 where he's just cussing out his mama.
That's correct.
Okay. And we do our best to pull the ones that maybe can give an insight to the jury.
Yes.
Okay. Now, within those, are jail calls easy to listen to, or are they pretty tough to listen to?
They can be pretty tough to listen to.
Did you and I actually listen to some of the jail calls and then do our best to put in writing what Bryan Cahill and Christine Cahill are saying in a transcript form so that the jury can follow along by transcript instead of just having to listen to it?
Yes.
Do you think that would aid the jury in being able to listen to these jail calls and understand what's being said?
I do.
We will offer States 390, 391, and 392.
No objection.
Are they being offered as demonstrative aids, or are they being offered as substantive evidence?
Well, I offered them as substantive, but I don't know if there's an objective to that.
No objection was made. 390, 391, and 392 are admitted.
All right, Ranger. Date of our offense was what?
3/29/2019.
Okay. Let's look at a jail visitation labeled 4/7/19.
Bryan?
Yeah.
Can't see you very well.
I can't help it. Need a high chair if you want to see me better, so I'm not going to sit there and crouch. I don't know. What's going on?
Got Gray all, got Gray all ensconced and got Gray taken care of. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Got Gray taken care of, and I'm just wondering what you need for me to bring you. You need some contacts? You need your contacts?
You can't bring me anything.
And what?
That's not going to be allowed. That's not allowed.
Oh, contacts?
Well, nothing is.
They told me that I could bring you contacts.
Yeah, okay. I guess that's about it. Nothing else. So.
What I'll do is I'll put some money on your promissory account so that you can get contact information.
I'm not going to be able to get those. I don't know that I'll be able to get those for quite a while, so I don't know what the point of that is. Why don't you try making bail?
I can't too much.
Why can you not do that? Why can't you ask people for money? We're in a fucking family. We got lots of fucking family members. Why can't you do that? It's not too much fucking money. 50 grand to 100 grand. It's 100 grand. I'm not gonna cooperate with the goddamn person. You go fuck yourself. You don't tell me what to do. You fuck yourself. Okay. Oh, that's fine. I never want to see you again. I'm not gonna be taking your fucking visitations again. Because you're a fucking piece of shit. You're not a lifeline. You're nothing. Why can't? What is CIA doing today? What is CIA doing in my arraignment?
CIA. Bryan, we can't talk about anything other than just personal things. Okay, we can't.
Okay, then I'm done. Because what you're doing right there is fucking bullshit. And if you're not gonna tell me a fucking thing about a fucking thing, you can fuck yourself. Don't try to talk to me again. If you're gonna leave me sitting here now, fuck you. I want bail. Make bail. You can make bail. Do it. That's all. If you're not gonna make bail, you're a fucking witch cunt. You can fuck yourself. You have every ability to do it yourself. If you ask people for money, you can do it. You can put it together. Who?
Please talk to Mr. Haynes. He's a good attorney, and he will be helping you. But
No, I'm not interested in him. I'm not interested in you personally. I hope you ride to hell. Because you are the one that has the ability to put together bail very easily, and the fact you leave me sitting here and this shit'll, and you don't give a shit or have any appreciation for it, that might be the last time I see that.
I certainly do, Bryan, but I can't come up.
Nah, you can. Yeah, you can. And that's the crock. No, it's not. You bond it out, it's a lot less. 100 grand. 100 grand. You can bond it out at 100 grand, honey. And you know that. Yes, you do. You can come up with it very easily. You come up with it or I'm not going to see you, okay? Make bail. I'm done with you. Don't come to visitation. Don't try to talk to me. You fucking piece of shit. So, can I go back to myself? Yep.
Was that the first visitation you saw between Bryan Cahill and his mom?
Yes.
That's on April 7th of 2019, a week after the offense, correct?
That's correct.
All right. And Ranger, you know, I don't know whether I should apologize or not, but I mean, a lot of what Bryan Cahill says is offensive language. Is that correct?
That's correct.
In this next jail visitation, on January 18th of 2020, do you remember a jail visitation where he talks about his mom's talking about buying a storm door, and he decides to go ahead and tell her what he thinks about certain type of, he uses the N-word, and he talks about not feeling safe without a gun. Is that fair?
That's fair.
He also shows some paranoia and some delusions with regards to the jail staff. True?
True.
All right. So this is in January. So now we know that he's had several months of medication at this point. Is that fair?
That's fair.
Kyle, calling me. That's mostly on an area basis. No, I just
That. Oh, when you know, this house doesn't have a storm door on the front door. I really need to put a storm door on there.
Why? What difference does that make?
Well, when you open the door, there's nothing there but wide open space. Don't you think a storm door would be nice?
No, I never saw the point.
No?
The point. If it's strong enough to, what do you think it's going to do? They're so flimsy themselves.
No, I didn't think about it for that so much. I just like to be able to open the front and let the light and air in, and
you shouldn't do that.
Have the front door just sitting wide open.
No, just open. The windows as far as you can with those locks on. You don't want to leave the front door open like that. Yeah, the reports we get these days, we got niggas going into houses in the colony where we drive by on an regular basis, and they're going in there and they're crashing through windows. They're open. They're exciting glass doors with hammers in their hands. That's the colony. That's mostly, it should be a decent place to live for the most part. Now it's really being replaced by expensive places, I mean, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, $1 million plus. And you started that shit going on because you brought the ghetto right up there with you intentionally. They wanted it that way. So you see stuff like that, it just doesn't make you. I wouldn't be comfortable with leaving that thing open like that unless I had a gun in my pocket. I'm serious.
In Ranger, again, this is almost a year after he shot someone, and he's talking about feeling safe with a gun in his pocket.
That's correct.
No, there's no defense for that. You get 2 or 3 guys in there with weapons, and they come in the door, you're screwed.
I gotcha. Okay, enough. You don't have to say anymore. I got you. Let's not say anymore. Okay. Well, I won't do that.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, okay.
And seriously, the crime's gotten this far north on a wide basis, so it is something you have to think about. It's not only that, it may not seem that bad right now because it doesn't happen. Get me down.
Pretty sure that's not supposed to be happening.
The motherfuckers are shaking me down. While I'm out here, they figured it'd be a good idea to go into my cell and look around. I'd have two guys to do that. Oh, fucking pigs.
Bryan, all right, well, do you need to go?
No doubt they come out with a stack of my shit they stole.
But do you need to go?
I don't know. I guess we'll see.
Who went in? The guards went in there?
Huh?
The guards are in there?
Yeah. Couldn't go in there while I'm in there. They don't like you to supervise what they're doing, so, you know, if one day they want to do some funny stuff, it's just normal what they do. So I'm going to get you used to them just doing that.
Well, if you want to go, just say so, okay?
Yeah.
Well, okay. The other thing I've got is,
Huh?
the other thing I have to work on is I've got a shed that needs to have some wood replaced on it. I guess I can do a handyman type thing and get somebody to come and replace some of the wood on that shed that's kind of rotted. And then put a lock on it, because it doesn't have a lock on it right now.
Yeah.
That's about it. Lots of little things. I wish you could be there. There's a lot of little things you could do for me that would.
Don't miss anything now. I don't want you to miss anything, man.
Bryan.
Don't miss the 106 millimeter howitzer.
Bryan, stop that. I'm gonna go. If you can do that, stop.
I don't care what you do.
Hey.
What? Yeah, they're playing games.
I know they are, but think, if you can, think beyond that to something else, because that won't help you, and don't fall into the trap, okay?
Get a good look. So you gotta wonder what they're doing. They've been there right at the desk where all the papers are, probably reading my lawyer's papers and shit. Fucking pigs.
They can't do that. They're not supposed to do that.
That shit's supposed to be private, but I bet they're doing it. How much you want to bet?
Well, what?
Ranger, you understand in a jail situation, guards have to be able to go into cells and have to be able to do their job.
Yes, if they don't, there's weapons that can be made from different things that they have access to within the jail, so they periodically have to go and shake the cells down to make sure that there's something not in there that can harm other inmates.
Judge, at this time, we'd ask to distribute copies of State's Exhibit 390 for the jury.
All right, you may. Ranger, while that's being done, you are aware that jail calls made
between parties where one is in the county jail, there is a warning on the beginning of that jail call, letting the parties know these are being recorded. Is that correct?
Yes, it's pretty extensive warning.
We won't have to listen to it every time, but for the first time we listen to a jail call, we'll go ahead and play that through.
Yes, sir.
And we had a bunch of spots on here where we couldn't tell what was being said. It was so hard to hear, so we put in audible. Is it fair to say a lot of times on jail calls, especially in the very beginning, you can't hear the inmate, and so I don't want the jury to think that they're supposed to be hearing something they're not.
Correct. And even whenever you can hear them, you still have to listen to it several times to make sure you're getting the right word, you're capturing the right, wording.
Call number 1416661 inmate ID 12948 date 2021-24 time 212324 dialed number 12147324226 from station 4112. The time is. Please enter your PIN number. After the tone, please say United States of America. Press 0 to make a prepaid for calls within the United States, Canada, and the Caribbean. Please enter the area code prefix. Hello, you have a prepaid call from an inmate at Collin County Detention Facility. Your account balance is $47.88. To hear the charges for this call, press or say 2. This call will be recorded and subject to monitoring at any time. If this is an attorney, please contact the facility to have your phone number exempt from recording software. Thank you for using IC Solutions. You may begin.
Hello. Hello. Hello, hello. Can you hear me? Oh, there you are. Okay. What? Yeah? Hello? Yes, hello? What? Oh, I just got home and I'm putting everything away. That's all I got to say. Sorry, but I was driving before and it's hard to answer the phone when I'm driving. Anyway. I went to Walmart and then I went to Sam's. I haven't been to Sam's in forever, so I spent the time just walking around Sam's looking at what they had, which kind of I probably shouldn't have done. I kind of wasted some time, but it was fun anyway. You never know. They have different things at different times, So I kind of walked around and looked to see what was there. What? It's kind of cutting in and out here, so. Yeah, but right there, that level seems to pick up your voice better. Yeah, I don't know why, but it's kind of, especially like I told you, the first 5-10 minutes it does that.
Turn off the goddamn speakerphone.
Hey, stop swearing at me or I'm going to hang up. I can't hear you unless I put it on there at the beginning of the conversation. It's not loud enough.
I can't hear you if you do put it on. You can't hear me. Take me off the goddamn speakerphone.
All right, don't curse at me. You're not on it.
No, probably was established by 1988. You know, I've had this debate a few times.
I'm sorry, Bryan. I know it's frustrating to you.
Stop.
Maybe what I'll do is try putting...
Stop doing it.
Maybe what I'll do is try putting some money on the other phone of mine and see if there's any possibility that its reception is different.
Speakerphone.
I don't have you on there right now.
That's not what I asked.
What did you ask?
Take me off the fucking speakerphone.
Why did I take you off?
Why don't you take me off the fucking speakerphone?
I did.
Put money on the other phone.
I did take you off the speakerphone.
I'm not talking about right now, genius. We're talking about your master plan. You hear me? Instead of the phone,
the reason
this phone, and you don't use the motherfucking speakerphone.
Right. Don't use the word with me anymore. I'm going to hang up. I mean it, Bryan. I'm not going to listen to that.
You can't even.
I put you on the speaker.
Those are the only words you do understand. Okay. You don't hear me if I don't use one words.
That is not true.
Oh shit! Every time I use them, you hear me. Every time I don't use them, you hear a fucking thing. Or you don't hear.
You know why?
Yeah, because you get.
Because when you use those words, you speak loud and clear, and your phone picks it up.
Bullshit.
There is something about the phone there that it doesn't pick up well.
On the phone.
All right.
Sure.
Okay, so let's go on. Let's not sit and argue about things. Let's move on to something else.
Not argue about things, right?
All right. So, what's going on?
One person that can understand. If you have a bad phone and put it on speakerphone, puts it all off on somebody else. It's your fault. You got a bad phone. Somebody else has this problem.
Okay.
Man, there's fucking guard out here. I was talking about, Congresswoman said they should be arrested for treason and sentenced to death, something like that. And she got furious and decided herself when he heard it, I guess. And he's calling it the other inmate. I think it's an inmate, It's up here. And going around. You can believe what this guy said. He said this and this and that. The guard. So I'm getting in that room out there right now, actually. And he was talking to some other people over the intercom, and when he saw I was listening to the intercom, and so he used that. One other person talked to him about framing me for something and about getting me in trouble. And he took it real hard. He's a hardcore Democrat, and so he got this real short haircut, hair. Guys want to compete and get off pretty probably in about an hour. And it happens to it. He opens the cell door at night or something. And then overpower me. So.
He's talking specifically about you?
Yeah.
And who is he talking to?
Other inmates. The inmates of the enemy's mind.
What?
Not only against me, but against me in the past. So. Just want to tell you in case I'm not. It's an easy thing for a piece of shit like that to totally corrupt, open the cellar door, give you a jar. boys.
It's kind of scary when we're talking about someone in an institutional setting, correct? February 1st of 2020, almost a full year of being in jail and receiving medication. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I never lived down a day that I saw a beat out black man behind her, and I beat him up.
Oh dear, that's pretty bad.
Yeah, I beat him up. I knocked him down on the floor and kicked his head in. He didn't get up for a really long time.
You know what? Don't say those things.
Then a robot came along with the inside. A spatula and scraped him off the pavement and put him in a refuse jar.
Bryan, don't even say anything. I know you're kidding around.
I hate that we're having to do this, but I mean, like, there is, within Bryan Cahill's calls, not only is there themes about hurting others, but there's also a racist bent to him. Is that a fair statement?
That's fair.
I mean, were you present for a hearing on February 13th of 2020?
Is that the bond reduction hearing?
Yes. Were you here for that?
I was.
Okay. And Bryan Cahill was in the courtroom and his mama testified.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Was that the first hearing that we had with regards to Bryan Cahill?
Yes.
And that was the first hearing where my name was used. Is that correct?
Yes.
I want to show you a jail visitation video from February 15th, 2 days later.
Hello.
Marty.
What's going on?
Cold this morning.
It's
cold out there this morning.
Well.
Cold and windy. Get out at all?
No.
To the courtyard.
No.
Breakfast this morning.
Yeah.
Okay, so we woke up and had it. Did anything different? Is it oatmeal?
I woke up and I had a shit.
Right.
But it might have been breakfast. So I couldn't tell. You ever have one of them mornings where you wake up and you have shit? You must not have gone to jail. yourself better than that, don't you? Don't you? You hear me?
Yeah, I'm hearing you.
I thought to myself, boy, I'd rather have a 12-pack of beer than this horrible stuff. Yeah? You know, it's the beer that upsets you, eh? It's not the shit. It's better to have beer, you know. What's going on? You look kind of frustrated or something. Everybody eats good 12-pack in the morning. You know what you do when you have a 12-pack, don't you? All that good beer in you, we go out for a drive. Drive around in the car.
All right.
No,
It's going to go too well.
it's so fun. Nah, stay. It's all right.
I'm going to just talk to you later.
No, wait. You don't need to go. I'm sorry, that's Becky. I got comfortable. I'm just joking, you know.
Please. You haven't learned anything, just stop.
Huh? Well, why? I know what I'm saying.
Well, I guess
There's nothing the prosecutor can use there. Unless he wants to use. There's a lot worse stuff that's got on camera than that. That's not going to prove anything. It's not going to prove anything. But we have to pretend like he's not watching us? Shit.
Bryan,
Give me a break.
Bryan.
Yeah, you want to pretend like he's not watching us. And I can't say that either. That's what it is. You're afraid. You're afraid. I'll talk about him because he's watching. You're afraid of him knowing. You're afraid of acknowledging on there that he's watching. Are you serious? Really? You scared of that guy? Oh, we have to pretend like he's not watching.
You got to stop.
No, I'm not going to stop this. No, you don't need to go. I'm just fine. See, because you're so afraid of that guy that you can't acknowledge that he's watching on there. You have to pretend like he's not. You're afraid of him like that. That's unbelievable. The guy does not have the powers of a Waffen SS. He cannot come in and get you if you mention his name somewhere. It is okay to say that he's watching us when he's watching us, which is now. Yeah, see, right there. There you go. He's not a Waffen SS, and he's not going to purge us. Okay, he's a prosecutor, Mitchell. Don't be afraid. Isn't that fascist yet? Make it that way more in the future. Or ways away from that. Besides that guy's trying to throw the book at me anyways. He said it. No, it's not all right. He said it. He said the bail doesn't keep you there or add on to the charges and raise the bail. If I can't give you life in prison, then I'll add some more charges and give you life in prison. And he said it. So he's already trying to do everything. He's already trying to do everything he can to put me away forever and keep me in here forever. So he's doing what he can. He's doing what he can right now.
Bryan, when...
In court, honey. In court, honey. In court. Yeah? So he's doing what he can, you know.
I'm not going to talk about it anymore.
Why not? I can't talk about it. Oh, you're gonna leave. You're gonna get prissy and leave. You're gonna run off and stamp your feet because you're so scared to death of that guy that I can't talk about him on the system here. Because you know he's gonna see it when I mention his name. He's not the Waffen SS. He's not the Waffen SS general, honey. He's not the Waffen SS general. You need to take it easy. You're terrified of the guy. It's unreasonable. Grow some courage, really. Be an adult. Stand up to tyranny. I'm not even asking you to do that.
Go and get Gray.
You need to wait. You need to wait until we're done there.
Something else, I will.
I'll talk about what I want to talk about. I'm not scared to do that, you see. I live in a free country, and if I don't, I'm going to act like it. So, I'm sorry that you're scared into living in the fascist hole.
All right, I'm going to go.
Where you?
See you. Okay, bye.
Yeah, see, that's exactly what I mean. You fucking bitch. You stupid fucking bitch. You stupid fucking bitch. You stupid fucking bitch.
Judge, I'm now going to ask permission of the court to pass out copies of Station 391 and 393.
Permission granted.
Call no.
I think we can have a decent conversation each time if we can both be respectful of one another and just think and be thought.
Don't stop the fucking world so that you can control what I say because you don't like it. When I occasionally talk like me, not that person you want me to be, that person I showed the family. I'm not a nice guy, little jackass bitch. I act around the family.
All right, Bryan.
Listen to me, what I'm saying. You might get to me, and if you hear what I'm saying, I'm trying to communicate with you. I'm not going to be the jackass bitch I played in the past around the family. Okay? Because that's not me. I don't act that way. That's not true to myself, and that's sick. Being that guy who takes the shit I take. Being that guy who acts like the idiot that I act like. That's not me. That's what I acted like. I was like to go to dinner with you know, Rachel and John and Dad, and everybody'd be happy because I'd be in my little spot there as a half-wit fool, you know, and I just get made fun of and, you know, just get treated, you know, like I get treated. It's just so family sake, you know.
And Bryan, I don't believe that you were, listen, you did not have that.
That's what I do. That's what I'm telling you that I do. That's what I tell you that I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not doing it anymore. That's what me. If you don't like it, go to hell. I'm not going to dress up and fancy up what I'm saying and do it to the family. I want to be myself. I'm going to be true to myself. That means that I don't, you know, kowtow to Johnny Boy or anybody else.
And you can be yourself, and you have been yourself. I think it's remembering.
I think you remembered it correctly, honey, because every single time I've been to the family in the last 7 years, I've been high out of my mind, if not drunk. So what do you know? What do you know about how I am naturally? I've been so drunk and high out of my mind It's easy asking somebody other than me to please y'all. But you notice I was high out of my mind every time?
No, I did not.
No, you sure didn't. You didn't notice this either. You didn't notice what I'm talking about either. Because I'm good. Because I'm better at everything. When you realize I actually have some values and skills and talents.
Yes, I know you do.
And one of them is that's
You know what? I know you do.
I know.
You're the one who doesn't seem to know
right
that.
now. That's what I'm talking about right now. Is pulling off being high out of my mind. It's fucked up. What you call it? Because there's no other way to describe it. That's what it's called. There's no term for it. And y'all don't even notice. So there you go.
I'm sorry that you felt that way about everything.
I didn't feel that way. I was that high.
Understand. Okay, well, all right.
It was the way I felt. It was the way I felt because I was high as hell.
All right. Well, you perhaps because of that, maybe you could think about the fact that maybe you weren't recognizing what was really going on around you.
No, I was more aware. I was taking things that didn't drag you.
All right. Well, this probably isn't a good place, though.
Why? Because I said that it makes you more aware?
No, Bryan.
Because I said that I have a better idea of what's going on than if I was on a downer. Because downer is clouds your mind and puts you in a down state.
Okay.
You don't have, there you go. See, that upsets you. Downers puts you into a down state of mind. Now, why does that upset you so much? When I start talking about downers puts you into a low state of mind, a relaxed, low state of mind, and they dull you down. Uppers, such as amphetamines and methamphetamines, and all the things that rev you up, get the brain going faster, and you can become manic. And truly accelerate the brain, and that's why so many driven people are borderline manic, because their brain's going so fast. And that's what drugs like this do. Make the brain go faster. In some very limited ways. It's powerful over time. It's disastrous, but at first it seems to work. There, I said it.
Call number.
Situation you're in is just brutal, but
that cop goes to hell.
let's not say anything in here that's going to be. Okay, please don't say anything.
That last jail call we listened to, Ranger, clearly hear Bryan Cahill say, I hope that cop goes to hell. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
March 29th of 2019, Bryan Cahill clearly recognized one of our DPS troopers, is that correct?
Yes.
And proceeded to use crazy as an excuse for the way he was pleading for it.
Yes.
Nothing that you and I discussed should be taken as you or I's belief that citizens shouldn't have arms or a statement on firearms or the Second Amendment. Is that right?
That's right.
In fact, I think we've already had a little discussion about you and I and firearms and how we feel about it. But I want the jury to understand how the law of the state of Texas works. Is there a way, Bryan Cahill, convicted of felony, is there some system in place where we can keep felons from getting guns?
No.
In fact, we have a law in the state of Texas because felons get guns called unlawful possession of a firearm by a felon.
Correct.
Have you worked few or many crimes where felons were able to buy weapons?
Many.
And then not only that, but in the state of Texas, 5 years after the last touch of the law, you can have a firearm in your residence. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay, so felons can have a firearm in their residence.
Right.
So the jury's not mistaken by finding him guilty, by even a short prison term. That doesn't mean he can't go out into the public and get a gun if he chooses to break the law.
That's correct.
New jury, you told us you have worked many officer-involved shootings across the state of Texas. Is that right?
Yes.
How many years have you been in law enforcement?
19 years.
Do juries work on officer-involved shootings have an effect, a deterrent in the state of Texas?
Absolutely.
The job they do, the sentences they give, in your mind, do you believe that that actually stops criminals from attacking police officers?
Yes.
I'll pass it.
Okay, Ranger Mankin, just a few questions. When you got out of the DPS Academy, they sent you out to Laredo to be a highway patrol trooper, right?
That's correct.
Most of the troopers that get out of the academy, the first place they go is out to Monahans or someplace in West Texas, right?
West or south?
Why?
It's just been an area that they've had a hard time filling vacancies at.
Because it's dry and it's hot and there's not very many people out there, right?
I would agree with you.
When you're patrolling that road as a highway patrol trooper, you go a long set of miles without seeing anybody.
That is accurate at times.
And when you see them, you're all alone. You're by yourself, right?
For the most part, yes.
All right. Now, when Trooper Webb's, well, let me ask you about that gate into the apartment complex. Does that thing run linearly on some kind of a track?
It does, sir.
All right. So, do I understand you to say that when Trooper Webb's vehicle passed over that track, passing over the track disabled the electrical system in the vehicle?
That must have been the straw that broke the camel's back, that jar as he went across that track, because immediately upon him hitting it, the siren shuts off, and then he's not able to communicate on the radio soon after that.
Was that some kind of an old broken down vehicle?
No, sir. It's just an equipment failure.
All right.
Murphy's Law.
Does that, do you have a lot of trouble with those vehicles in that way?
No, that hasn't been an issue that's happened that I've heard of.
All right. It happened that day on that one, though.
It did.
I mean, it just seems odd that running over a track that every car that passes in there runs over every day, right? Would disable the whole electrical system.
Right, but troopers, I know myself when I was on the road, we can be pretty hard on units, and it's just the wear and tear. You have a lot of sharp edges on those consoles, and over time, if a wire somehow is touching a sharp edge, it can short.
Right. So you were at the DPS office in Garland when that plaintiff detective called you. Did I get that right?
No, sir. I was in McKinney.
In McKinney. Yes, sir. You have an office in McKinney?
I do.
All right. Okay. Now, when you returned to Mr. Cahill's apartment on April 2nd, is that when you returned there on April 2nd?
Yes, I did.
All right. And at that point, the DPS had already processed the scene. The scene had been released to his family so that they could clean up the apartment. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Right. And it was the defendant's family that called you about the evidence that was found there later.
That's correct, sir.
All right. Now, there's one of the pictures the prosecutor showed a spent cartridge case that was found in the apartment on that occasion, and there's duct tape in that photograph. Do you remember that?
I'd have to look at the photo, but
I don't remember the number. I certainly don't remember the exhibit number. The agency number was something like 59 or 50 something.
That wouldn't have been one of mine, because I only used between 1 and 6 placards inside of the residence the second go around.
There was a lot of duct tape in that apartment. You were in the apartment, though, right?
Yes, to do a walkthrough.
All right, and there was a lot of duct tape in there, was there not?
I'd have to look back at the photo, sir.
Nothing that you noted at the time.
Correct.
All right. if possible. Or I'm going to go on and ask you some more questions when he gets it pulled up. We'll talk about it. All right, so the prosecutor has just played for you a lot of, or several, phone call recordings and video recordings. What's that? It's 370. Is that the one you're talking about? No, the one you just showed that had a yellow pyramid and it showed a cartridge case. On one side was the parquet floor and on the other side was carpet. You just showed it just now in direct.
It's going to be on the folder listed as 4-2 of 19. Apartment 431.
Maybe it was 5 rather than 50. I'm sorry, it's been a long day.
Yes, sir.
Bingo, there it is. I don't have it on my screen, but you can, the duct tape I'm talking about there is right there in the lower right quadrant of that photograph. Do you see it there on the floor?
I do, sir.
Looking at that, do you remember seeing any other duct tape in that apartment when you were there that day?
I'd have to look at all the other photos, sir.
All right. What significance, if any significance, did you attach to the presence of that duct tape right there where you see it?
That he's holding down the wire.
All right. Do you think it was just being used to hold a wire to the floor?
That's correct.
All right. So, thank you. Turning back to the phone calls and video, several phone calls were played. How many phone calls were made? I think you said 1,000.
We'd have to look at the specific number, sir.
I mean, over 26 months, a lot of phone calls have been made. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And have y'all listened to every single one?
No, sir. Just the ones that my attention's been directed to.
All right. Somebody that works for Mr. Mitchell's listened to every single one, right?
Yes, sir.
And Mitchell has had to listen to every single one. And of those 1,000 phone calls, these 3 or 4 have been picked out to be played. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right.
Those have substance to them.
All right. Now, in one of those video visits, Mr. Cahill asks his mother why the CIA was at his arraignment. Did you hear him say that?
Yes, I did.
First of all, what's an arraignment?
Basically, that wasn't an arraignment. It was a bond reduction hearing, I believe. Or actually, you know what? I'm sorry. Going back, that was his arraignment.
Yeah, because
yes.
The arraignment took place. That visit took place on April 7, 2019, and he was arrested on March 29th, right?
Yes, you're correct.
So he hadn't had a bond reduction hearing.
Right.
And so, what is an arraignment?
Basically, the judge, magistrate, gives him his rights and basically tells him, "Hey, look, this is your bond. This is what's been set," and advises him he's got a right to an attorney, things of that nature. I mean,
so the person who's been arrested appears before a magistrate judge, right?
Correct, sir.
Who is I don't want to disparage any member of the judiciary, but the magistrate is the judge over the court with the least authority. Is that fair?
Debatable.
All right. Well, I mean, they don't try any cases, right?
Correct.
They don't decide any appeals.
Correct.
The purpose of the arraignment court is to bring the person before the court and say, here's why you're in jail. This is what they've arrested you for. This is what could happen to you if you're found guilty. You have the right to an attorney, and if you can't afford one, I'll appoint you one, and this is how much bond you have, right?
Correct.
So, does the Central Intelligence Agency ever appear in the arraignment of any criminal defendant in the state of Texas?
No.
All right. And so if a person believed that had happened, that would be a delusive and delusional belief, right?
Unless they're just trying to make it appear that they're delusional or...
I mean, you've been in 19 years working in law enforcement in the state of Texas. You ever had any dealings at all with the Central Intelligence Agency?
Not that I'm aware of.
All right. Now, the prosecutor also played a fairly blood-curdling statement about him beating someone up and something like that. You remarked on that or noticed it when it was played for you, right?
Correct.
Is that supposed to have happened inside the jail?
That's unknown.
All right. It wasn't specified where it was supposed to have happened.
Sure.
All right. And again, of those video visits, the ones that you have asked about or have been asked about today are the ones that the prosecutor called to your attention.
That's correct.
All right. Thank you, Ranger Mankin. No further questions.
Briefly, Your Honor.
The defendant, Bryan Cahill, has had many jail visitation calls and many jail calls. Fair enough, right?
Fair.
We took a couple to show the jury to try to get a little insight. Is that fair?
Yes, sir. And I totally understand the purpose of that, because going through 1,000 calls today would be torture.
Well, heck, let's just go through a couple then. On August 17th of 2019, did you watch the one where he calls the nurse a bitch?
Yes.
Words, not mine. Jail staff.
Yes.
Did you watch the one where on November 2nd of 2019, he says the guards are fucking around and being juvenile, then talks about a little black African and Latino?
Yes.
Guard. Is that scary when he's talking about guards in that manner?
Yes.
We could have played that one for the jury as well, couldn't we?
Yes.
If I'm being accused of picking and choosing, let's just keep going. On November 9th of 2019, does he refer to, and I'm going to say, these are his words, not mine. I've got this little N in this big afro that tries to throw shit in my cell. Another racist epithet for someone who fired a weapon on one of our African-American officers.
Yes.
We could go to December 7th of 2019 at 1425 into the jail visitation where he says, it's that N on the second story they've had all the trouble with. Describes how he believes the inmate throws stuff in his door.
Yes.
December 24th of 2019, where he talks about a nurse and how she's a victimized little girl that probably acts that way because she sees him as an alpha male. Jail staff that he's talking about, correct?
Yes.
Judge, I'm going to ask that the defendant be told not to address counsel in this courtroom.
Not to address you?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Cahill, do not address Mr. Mitchell or anyone else other than your attorneys, right?
How about on December 28th of 2019, where, again, he talks about someone raping and killing a homeowner. He talks about this fella and repeatedly uses the N word and says, that's what N's do. They rob and rape people. We could have played that for the jury too, couldn't we?
Yes.
We could have obviously played a lot more conversations where he's yelling at his mom, calling her a bitch, calling her words that should never be uttered to a mother from their son. We could have played a lot more of those types of calls that you've heard, right?
Correct.
Maybe the jury will get to hear tomorrow a phone call where he tells his mom to not say anything more that's incriminating for him, showing that he understands that he doesn't want some of this evidence to get out there. We could have done that. Maybe they'll get to hear that tomorrow, perhaps.
Yes, sir.
Is it fair to say there are a lot of jail calls and jail visitations that we could have been playing all day long today for the jury, but we chose to play a few just to show a mind state of the defendant?
That's correct.
That's all I have.
No further questions.
Is this witness released?
Released by the state.
Released by the defense.
Thank you, sir. You're free to stay or go, whatever you'd like to do.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. What says the state?
Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, at this time the state rests.
All right, can I see counsel up at the bench, please? Members of the jury, we are going to recess for the day. Is 8:30 tomorrow still work for everybody? All right, I'm going to ask you to please be back in the jury room at 8:30, and we will continue at that time. Please remember the court's instructions and don't discuss the case or investigate the case. Have a nice evening. We'll see you tomorrow.